On this episode, I'm going to identify 5 ways that by just being a doctor, you may be unwittingly sabotaging your entrepreneurial aspirations. Let's talk about it on this episode of Bootstrap MD. Welcome again. Thanks for joining us here on the Bootstrap MD podcast. My name is Dr. Mike Booming. Recently, I had the opportunity to kind of reflect on just my consulting career over the last 10 or 15 years working with entrepreneurs, primarily healthcare entrepreneurs, primarily physicians. And I've had the opportunity to work with some amazing doctors who've gone on to do some tremendous things, working with creating their businesses, finding solutions to problems that are ailing them, and learning how to stop substituting time for money. And then I've had the opportunity to work with physicians who, for whatever reason, also amazing, don't get me wrong, but just haven't been able to kind of pull that trigger, or at least I've been unable to help them get to where they want to go and creating an entrepreneurial life, helping them create an entrepreneurial life for them. Recently, I had the chance to work with a doctor who, just like has tremendous ideas, and he had like 5 or 10 really cool ideas and how we can build some extra income outside of just being a physician employee. He had income to invest in these projects, and we were talking, and I was excited for him, but for whatever reason, we just weren't able to push him to get started on these projects. And even though I told him to just focus on one project, he wanted to go to a whole bunch of different projects. Another one that a doctor that I worked with, also incredible, just whip smart, just really amazing. And I was helping him really launch his physician consulting career. He wanted to work with hospitals. And we sat down for a brainstorming session, kind of finalized, what he wanted to do with his consulting business. Everything was all ready to go. And then over time, he had to push off, in terms of his time working with me, our sessions that we were doing together, wasn't able to make it. And, he was paying me, it was on a retainer, quite a bit of money each and every month. That wasn't a problem. But it came down to, was like, hey, I know you got a lot of things going on, and I don't feel comfortable taking your money. Maybe we can just pause this right now, or, and he would say, oh yeah, appreciate it, thanks. A lot of things going on. And then, for whatever reason, I didn't hear from him again. And, of course it could be me. It could be we just, we weren't meshing together as a consultant, and that can occur as well. But I don't think that was the case. And it got me thinking, if it wasn't me, what else could it be? And it's something that I've seen, especially with working with physicians, that I don't see I work with other types of careers who have been entrepreneurs. I just haven't seen it. And I'm not saying that it's completely due to being a physician, but I think there are things that we have learned, and I've done myself as a physician, that have blocked my way of moving forward to really launching my entrepreneur ventures. And one thing that I also want to say is it's not our fault. It's just the way that either we're wired, either the way that we decide to become a physician that we have. Maybe it's our upbringing, maybe it's the environment, who knows. But what I wanted to talk about on this podcast were 5 ways that as physicians, we are sabotaging our entrepreneurial aspirations. And we're going to go over these 5 things that I think, once you recognize it, it might help you. My plan is it'll help you kind of recognizing the problem and then deciding to do something about it. So let's get started. Number 1, as physicians, we are trained to be risk averse. We aren't comfortable with uncertainty. We don't like ambiguity. We like having the opportunity to follow, the conclusions of a double-blind placebo study. But, kind of the definition of starting a business is you got to take on risk. Now, the good news is, unlike in medicine, starting a side gig generally doesn't involve life or death. You know, as doctors, it's something that, in some fields, we have to be comfortable with that every single day of our job as a doctor. And we're just not ready to start a business. So the other thing too is, just because I discussed being an entrepreneur, I don't think it's for everybody. There are some people who are just comfortable being working for somebody else, being an employee, and that's okay too. But just be aware that, I was talking with one doctor. He wanted me to help him with his online business. Are there any guarantees that it's going to work? And I'm not Nostradamus. I can't guarantee you starting a business, more so even online. The good thing is you don't have to do a lot of work in terms of money when you're starting an online business. And as I mentioned, you're not going to have to make these crucial careers that could mean life or death. Number two, we don't like to sell. I don't like to sell. It's not very comfortable doing, but obviously, as a business, you have to learn how to sell. And nobody wants to be that, used car salesman. And it's simply something that we are not educated in doing. But as a doctor, one of the skills that you have is you do sell. You sell every day. But if you're recommending to a patient, getting that X-ray, getting that ultrasound, taking that medication, writing that prescription, you have to sell. It may not seem like you're taking in money, but it is something that you're doing to sell to them, to help their life, to help with their health. But there are ways that you can get around with selling. I think physicians, we can sell through education. You can create a webinar, you can create some content. You're not hitting them over the head with some type of, sleazy tactic. Again, I don't like doing that kind of stuff either. But if you show that you are someone who knows what they're talking about, can help other people, you can provide value to others. There are ways that, if they want to get to work with you, over time, you want to make sure that your time is worth money, and that's how kind of the world works. And again, it's not our fault. I'm going to say this again and again. Doctors and profiting just doesn't always mix. We know that through how the general public thinks of that. Physicians, they don't like us to accumulate. And again, those are kind of those inner things that we have, that just physicians and money, that we've always kind of struggled with. I've struggled with it myself. But, with selling, it is an integral part of a business. You're not going to have a successful business if you're not able to sell. And it's just something that, if you want to become an entrepreneur, you have to be able to overcome. Number three, as doctors, we don't like doing things outside the ordinary. Again, something that I've talked about, and not a lot of doctors like to think about it, but most of us are followers. We're not leaders. Being an entrepreneur, it's counterculture. It's against what most of us aspire to do. Doctors who are on the fridges, we look down upon. Doctors who do treatments, we don't want them to be. We want to make sure that those people are. They've got a spotlight on them. They're doing something against the ordinary. They might be listed on these medical boards. They get in trouble. We don't like to do things outside of the ordinary. And as entrepreneurs, if you want to provide solutions to problems that have been existing, sometimes you have to go outside of the box, right? You have to do something new and innovative. And for many, that is people aren't just very comfortable with. When I wanted to leave my job, working full-time in primary care, working for somebody else, it was not looked upon as something that they approved. When I speak at conferences, when I talk about entrepreneurship, I've had pushback from these conferences. Hey, we just want doctors to write prescriptions, work on make sure they're following HIPAA, work on their ICD-10 codes, make sure they're coding correctly. And we don't like doing things outside of the box. We don't like doing things outside of what we're doing. So we went into medicine because we understand that there was a step by step thing that we had to do. If we wanted to become a doctor, we had to do well in college, either doing pre med, we had to do volunteer work, we had to get great MCAT scores, get great personal statements, then we go into medical school, do well on our board exams, and then go into the residency. Everything was done step by step. In entrepreneurship, there is no real step by step. There's different ways that you can build successful businesses, but there's no step by step way. There's step by step ways in terms of like forming a business, but for other businesses, it really comes down to understanding that you need to be risk adverse, understanding that you have to be comfortable with going outside of what your comfort zone. And for many, there are people that you surround yourselves with that like you to be in that comfort zone, and it's kind of nice to be in that comfort zone as well. Being an entrepreneur, you can have to deal with some sleepless nights. You have to be able to deal with stress, and again, it's not for everyone. Number 4, we don't want to learn new skills. Hey, I get it. We talked about we're doing selling. We're going to be doing activities that we've had no training on. We don't get any business training in medical school. Very, very, very few opportunities to actually do it. It's not something that we're comfortable in. If we have our own practice, we hire somebody, right, to do that part of business, doing the finances. We don't like that. But it's something as an entrepreneur you need to know. Not necessarily that you're going to have to do everything, but you have to understand sales. You have to understand finances. You have to understand marketing. Sure, you can hire a marketing company, but you need to know what they're doing and why they're doing it, and you need to know what are the skills that you need to learn to understand what's working. You have to understand about conversion. You have to understand about building a funnel. You have to understand a sales process and following up. It's not just buying a billboard. There are ways that you have to understand. And for doctors, we just throw money at it and hoping that problem solves itself, and it doesn't work that way. Another thing as doctors we love to have initials behind our name. If we want to go into business, I want to do it the right way, right? I need to get that MBA. I've argued you don't need to have an MBA unless you want to become like a hospital administrator or something like that. Perfectly fine. But if you want to have a successful business, I don't want you to be spending money just because for 2 years, because you think you need to have an MBA. I've known many, many people, multimillionaires, successful businesses, who haven't even graduated college or attended college, let alone have an MBA. And, we're busy, right? We're working. But you have to understand that if you want to kind of live on your own terms, become your own boss, you have to make a decision. Am I going to be someone who is going to, find my own dream, or am I going to be working with someone else, helping them build their dream? And again, there's nothing wrong with it. Just as an employee, you're helping somebody else build their own dream, fulfill their own dreams. And then last but not least, the pain isn't great enough. Let's face it, as doctors, we generally make pretty good money. And, we know that through research that most people are motivated by pain or avoidance of pain than actual pleasure. So the idea that you're going to make, let's say you're making $200,000 and you're going to make, $500,000, in most cases that's pleasure, that's something that is not as motivating as, let's say you lost your job and you don't have any other skills, and starting a business is the only way that to build up an income. When I went and I left my job, for me, the pain of working in that job that I was in, I knew I wanted to do something different. So I knew I needed to get out of that situation. I was with areas of my life where I was being surrounded in a lot of negativity. For me, that pain, that avoidance of that pain, getting out of that pain was great for me to help me start up my businesses, online businesses at the time. And like I said, we're comfortable, and it's cool, to join, you know, go to and join on Facebook group and entrepreneurs and see what other people are doing, and then following. That's really easy, right? Every time I see a bump, they're just following, bump, meaning they're following, these topics, but they're not really invested into it. They're not really engaged into it, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with it. Sometimes we like to live vicariously through what other people are doing. There's nothing wrong with it. And I know that, there are some people that who I know they're on someday I'll start a business. Someday I'll work on creating a blog. Someday I'll start that side gig. And they never get off that someday island. And again, there is nothing wrong with it. But just realizing that, you're comfortable where you're at for right now, the pain isn't that great. And so you work on, working on that other job. Just know you're going to be in that level. If you remember all the way back in episode 1, I talked about the 4 financial levels of a physician, and most doctors are at that level of 1 where they're the physician employee. And again, if you're comfortable doing it, then more power to you. But if you want to grow and you want to build your own dream, in my belief, it's through entrepreneurship. You just know that you need to escalate those levels. You need to become more risk averse, and you need to be able to identify these problems that you inherently, as a doctor, you have that are stopping you from becoming and starting your own business. So that's what my thoughts are. What do you think? Feel free to email me, post some comments. And also, if you like the podcast, go ahead and please rate. That helps me get up higher into the search engine iTunes rankings. Really appreciate it. Otherwise, I hope you guys have a wonderful day. And as always, keep moving forward.